Okay, hello everyone, and welcome back to another video on the series on how to make a top-down shooter in Game Maker Studio 2. So today we're going to be taking a look at making the player be able to fire a gun. And we already have it kind of set up here. He has this gun here. He points in the direction of our mouse. We have a dynamic camera, all that good stuff, and some juicy effects right off in the beginning. So this code we're going to be taking a look at today is for instantaneous firing, where you do not see the bullet traveling. Now I'm going to show you how this would normally work if we did have it like that. If you change the speed on this bullet to be extremely fast, the collisions won't be the same. They almost will not collide at all with the objects you were looking for, or they'll be kind of like every other bullet will collide. So I'm just going to show you how that works now, and how that's kind of it doesn't work in a way, I should say. So I'm just making a sprite. Now we're going to need this sprite for the instant firing too. This is just SPR bullet. Now normally when you would make the bullet, you do obj bullet, and then you'd have that sprite, you'd make it solid, you'd go to the create event, and you would simply put move towards point, and then you do mouse X and the mouse Y positions, and then your speed. You could have a super high speed, say 24. That's not like super high, but it's still really fast. And then you would just make it so in the player step event for this firing, you would also say, let me just space this out real quick. You'd also say instance create, and then instead of instance create, as in Studio 4, would be instant create layer. And then we're just going to do the X and Y, which is going to be X and Y, and then obj bullet, and then the layer, which is just layer, and then obj bullet. Now if we go ahead and take a look at this, it doesn't work very well, like I said, with collisions. If I had the collision set up with the wall, maybe multiple of these bullets would be going straight through the wall. So see, we could fire it like that, and that's how you'd fire bullets if you wanted to do this type of style. This is more retro style. So we're just going to get rid of that. And instead here, we're going to make a script and call this SPR player fire. We don't have this script set up, so you might get an error, or it might just call it as a variable or whatever. But it's actually a script that we're going to make now. So I'm also going to go back into that bullet, and I'm going to make it no sprite, and I'm going to get rid of this create event for now. Now, what you want to do is this collision, this collision mask, make that the SPR bullet. You're going to need that. You don't want this bullet to be visible, you want it to have a mask of the bullet. So now we're going to create that script, and you're just going to call this SPR player fire, exactly how you spelled it in the code for the player. Now, in Game Maker Studio 1.4, you could just do 3 lines and say SPR player, or SCR player fire, and then inside here you could put all your parameters like the bullet, the fire rate, stuff like that. But in Studio 2 you can't do that anymore, but instead we're going to put a description, so it's going to be at description, and then you can put the SPR player fire, so that's the script. And then inside here, just for our knowledge, we're going to put the parameters. So first we're going to have the vary, which is the accuracy. Then we're going to have the bullet index if you have multiple weapons, and then the sound that you want to play if you have multiple weapons. Now, below here, we need to put our parameters that we're going to have. So we're going to do 3 lines again, and we're going to do 3 of these, just like that. And we're going to do at param for parameter for all of these. Just like that. So now these are parameters, which is these. They're kind of like arguments, but we're just naming them basically. So the first one's vary, the second one's bullet, And the last one is sound, which we can actually put just SND, and even for this, depending on the bullet you want to shoot or whatever object you want to shoot, so you can just put OBJ for that. Now down here is where we actually need to define these variables. So var vary equals argument 0, var bullet equals argument 1, and var sound equals argument 2. Just like that. That's how you define those variables. So now we need to make a variable called fire. So this is going to be var fire, and then fire is going to equal this is where your controls are for whatever key you want to kind of use as the fire button. So I'm going to say in parentheses mouse check button pressed, or actually just button, because we're going to have a cooldown too for automatic firing, and this is going to be the left mouse button. We also need to check if our cooldown, which I don't think we set this up yet. Yeah, I think we did. Var cooldown is less than or equal to 0. And that's all you need for that. So now instead of saying if mouse check button pressed and global dot cooldown is less than 0, we can just say if fire, or just fire, and that will return this value. So now this is where the actual firing takes place, so I'm going to use what I said and say if fire, and then this is going to be a big open bracket like this. So the first thing we need to do, so as soon as the player presses the mouse button, and if the cooldown is less than or equal to 0, we're going to say global dot cooldown equals whatever we want it to, whatever our initial value was, and I think it was 11. So then down here is the actual bullet creation. This is where we're going to create the instantaneous bullet. Now there's a lot of variables we're going to set up and a lot of complex code, and I'm going to try my best to explain it for you. But if you don't like this complicated firing, just use what I showed you in the beginning of this video on how to do the retro style firing. So we're going to set up two variables. This is called bx, and that's going to equal x, and then comma, and we're going to do b underscore y. This is bullet x and bullet y, where it starts kind of. Now we also need to create a variable called temp dir, which is our temporary direction for our accuracy. That's going to equal, dir is the direction of our player, if you remember, plus random range, and then this is going to be negative vary and positive vary. So if you set vary for 4, you're going to have a range of 8, because 4 plus 4 is 8. You go negative 4 and positive 4. It's 8 total. So there's a chance it could go anywhere with between 8 pixels up and down. So now we need to define what bx and by actually equal. They were temporarily set for x and y, and they still are, but we're just going to add length and direction to it. So we're going to say bx equals x plus length dir x, and we're going to say 72, which this is where the tip of your gun is. I'm actually going to bring this down to about 54, or we're going to see if that works for us. We can always edit this. So remember, this is the tip of your gun. You can find this by setting your origin and finding the tip of the gun barrel and subtracting them and finding the difference. Then the direction we want is our temp direction, which is our accuracy. Just like that. And we can copy this code, save yourself some typing, and this is going to be by equals y plus length dir y. Just like that. And then we need 2 more variables. These are actually 3 more. The first 2 are your starting position and of the bullet. So we're going to do var start x equals bx, which is where our bullet's starting, and var start y equals by. Just as simple as that. This last one is called var collision. Of course, we need this bullet to be able to collide with certain things, and that's going to be our parent object. You want the bullet to collide with the parent. So we're going to say position meeting. So the collision equals position meeting bx, which is bx is now our traveling position. So that's the constant updated position of the x and y of our bullet. So bx and by, and it's the same thing for y, the constant position. And then obj parent, which is that we set that up in the last tutorial, I believe. And that is every object that you assign to have the parent of it. So now we need to actually put this collision into action. So we're going to use a while loop for this. So while, and then while there's no collision, can't type today, while there's no collision, and you could say and like that, or you can use two and symbols. And you're going to say distance to point. And then we're going to use our bx and by is less than room width. So if it's not outside of the room, then inside here we're going to say bx plus equals length dir x, and then 2, and then temp dir. And then you can copy this, paste it here, and say by length dir y, just like that. And then we're also going to say collision equals, actually you can just say, yeah, you can just take this line here, copy that, and paste it here, just like that, and that. So what's happening here? I'll try my best to explain. I'm going to go over what we said. So bx and by is the traveling position of our bullet. It's the constant updated position, the x and y coordinates of our bullet. The temporary direction is the accuracy, remember, up or down. Or basically any direction that it's firing is going to go out in one way and out the other, in between that range. And then here we are setting where the bullet starts. So bx and by start at x and y, and they still start at x and y, but we're setting it so that it's going to travel in the direction of our temporary direction. And then here we're saying start x and start y. The starting position and the starting position of our bullet is going to be the starting position x and the starting position y, or the traveling position, the initial traveling position. The collision is what we want the bullet to be able to collide with. So it's going to be position meeting our constant position x and constant position y, and it's going to be checking for that object parent. Now, while there's no collision, while we're not meeting any object, and the distance from our current position, the player's current position, to the bullet's traveling position is less than the room width. So if we're inside of the room and we don't have a collision, we're going to make this bullet continue forward in the direction we are facing. So it's going to be adding a speed kind of and a direction to where our bullet is currently at. And then of course we need to say if there's still a collision, make sure we stop. So after this we're going to actually create the bullet now and make it go, kind of. So var shot, or you could say bullet, actually we can't say bullet, you could say var gun or whatever variable you want that we haven't used already, equals instance create layer bx, which is our traveling position, by layer, then obj bullet. So we're creating this bullet at our current position because we haven't created this yet, so it's going to be the starting position basically. Now we're going to say, so since we assigned this object bullet to this variable shot, we could say shot dot, and then whatever we put here is going to be assigned to this object inside of the create event. So shot dot and then we're going to say start x equals start x. So this variable is only for the bullet. This variable we've already assigned here, which is bx and by. And then we're going to say shot dot start y equals start y. And we can actually do kind of an effect here. We can do effect create above. This is how you create stuff at the gun tip as well. We're going to do ef smoke up, or smoke looking upward like you have smoke coming off your gun barrel. Start x, start y. You don't want it to be traveling with the bullet unless you want it to be like a smoke trail on your bullet. And then you could say 0.8 for a really small value, and then C DK gray, which stands for dark gray. And we also need to apply that screen shake that we had before, so I'm going to say obj camera dot shake equals, and then we're going to say 10, because we're going to be constantly firing. Alright, and that is all you need to create an instant bullet. And remember, we have to assign these in the object as well. So if we go back into our player, we go to step, here we have this fire. Now down at the bottom you'll see the variables we set up, vary, obj, and sound. So for now, I'm going to create a sound, SMD gun. Oh, we forgot to put that in the script. We're going to find this. D sounds. See if I can find a gun sound effect here. Choose rifle. See how that sounds. No, I don't like that. Oh yeah, I like that one. Alright. So this doesn't matter for now. You're not doing anything special with it or anything. I'm gonna set this to stereo. There we go. Cool. So now we need to go back into that script because I forgot one thing. Down here at the bottom you can say audio play sound. And then here it's the sound ID SND gun, which actually this is going to be just sound because that argument. Priority is 1 and loops is false. We don't want that sound to loop. And there we go. Oh, this needs to be bullet because we're creating the bullet we wanted to be created. Cool. So now we X out of that, step event of the player, we assign these vary, I'm going to set to 4. OBJ, we're going to do OBJ bullet. And then the sound is SND gun, just like that. Now we also need to set create event. Okay, we have we need this to be global, not cooldown. Cool. Alright, so now we just need to add a few things for that bullet, add a create event, and inside of this we need to assign, remember those variables that we had before the start X and start Y, so starting position, start X equals 0, start Y equals 0. Whoops, what the heck happened there? Alright, cool. So this means that where we're starting, this is the X and Y of our object now. We don't want it to be moving across the room or anything. We don't want to start in any position in the room. We want to start at 0, 0. And remember, where we create this object is already at the tip of the barrel of the gun. So we can just say 0, 0 relative to our position. Okay, so now in the step event, we're going to be controlling our alpha. We kind of want this bullet to have a line following it to look like we're actually firing. So this is just image alpha control. Now we're going to say image alpha minus equals 0.2, or whatever value you want. You can experiment with this, but then I'm going to say if image alpha is less than or equal to 0, just destroy. Since we don't want this bullet to constantly stay in the room, we don't want it to just stay there and destroy everything that's in its path. We want it to make so it's a temporary bullet, so it's only going to last a few seconds, maybe in a few milliseconds, depending on what your value for image alpha is. Now we need to draw what this bullet looks like. So we can go into draw, and we're just going to draw the bullet. And now we're going to say GPU set blend mode. Now, GPU set blend mode is how it portrays or draws images to the screen. We're going to use BM add. Now, if I go ahead and open up our manual by pressing F1, it'll bring up our help page eventually. Alright, so if we go to index, we can type in GPU set blend mode. Blend mode. And in here it says BM normal. It's going to be the normal blending mode. Add is it's going to be, it says luminosity values of light areas are added. That's what we're using. So we're adding kind of light to this. Subtract, it's going to take away some light from the screen. And max is similar to additive, but it's the maximum blending. And then it kind of explains how it's used down here. So we're using add, and we're going to say draw set alpha. We want to make sure we're setting the alpha of this image to be our image alpha. Since we don't have a sprite, we're just using image alpha as a temporary variable kind of. Now we're going to say draw line width, so we're going to draw a line. We're going to say start X, which is our starting position, start Y, also starting position, to our current X and Y. Remember, our X and Y is the traveling position of the bullet, which is BX and BY. So now the width, we're going to say 2, and then also we need line width color. Sorry. After 2, we could say what colors we want. I'm going to do C white and C gray, and you'll see how that looks. Now we just need to set these back to normal. So instead of image alpha, it's going to be 1. Instead of BM add, it's going to be BM normal. So now make sure all of our other drawing that we do in the room is going to be an alpha of 1 and a normal blending mode. And I think that's all we need. If you want to make it so there's like dust on the wall whenever you hit it, go to collision with our parent, and this is going to be like a dust effect. We're going to do effect, create, above, EF, smoke, and we're going to do X and Y, and we're going to do 0.1 for a very small cloud, and then the color is going to be C dark gray. We're going to do that dark gray again. Cool. That's all we need for that. If you're going to be, we're going to add something in the next tutorial for enemies, but now if we go, should work, if we go into this, run this. Play. Okay, it's firing. Not really. Slight problem. Make sure we're drawing that correctly for the bullet. We don't need this if check pressed. Oh, you know what I forgot? In our step event of the player, we have to make sure we're subtracting that cooldown to make sure that it hits 0 so we can actually fire. I'm so sorry that this tutorial is all over the place. There we go. And that's how it works. there's a slight difference there. See how it kind of goes all over the place? If we change that in our player fire, oh nope, it's in this. If we change this, we can change that to like 16 for a really dramatic effect, like super bad accuracy. That's way out of line. So cool. It's very dramatic. I'm actually just gonna change that to like 5. Cool. Awesome. So if we save that, save for progress. Alright, hopefully you enjoyed that tutorial on instantaneous firing for a top-down shooter. A lot of that is customizable, obviously the gun sound effect and everything. In the next tutorial we're going to be taking a look at some basic enemy AI, how that can work, how a good HP system, and yeah, that'll be it. It'll be a quick tutorial next time. Thank you guys for hanging in there. Thank you for supporting this, and I'll see you all in the next tutorial.